Bolt's big dream. Bolt teetered, struggling to emulate the rigid bearing of his elder siblings. Sergeant, every inch the German shepherd, stood like a granite statue. Duchess, the Doberman, radiated an aura of quiet command. Bolt puffed out his chest, tucked his tail, and promptly tripped, collapsing in a tangle of sunshine gold fur and awkward limbs. A snort, quickly suppressed, betrayed Duchess. Bolt's ears drooped. That serious canine mien seemed perpetually beyond his grasp. His siblings were born for it, impassive, resolute, shields against any threat. Bolt felt different. His spirit craved more than rote drills and clipped orders. His mind wandered, painting vivid scenarios. He pictured himself soaring across chasms, plucking hikers from perilous precipices. He envisioned plunging into furious torrents, snatching children from the merciless pull of the current. He was Bolt, the superdog, a golden comet of unwavering valor, a four-legged guardian angel. He savored the imagined gratitude, the choked-back thank yous, the profound sense of consequence. Bolt! Eyes front! Officer Miller's voice yanked him back to the present. The familiar tang of leather mingled with the sharp, clean scent of pine. Scent detection practice beckoned, not rescuing phantom civilians. Miller knelt, scratching behind Bolt's ears. You've got a generous spirit, Bolt. Plain as day. You want to make a difference. That's the soul of a good K9 unit. But you gotta harness that fire. Can't save anyone if you can't sniff out a trail. Bolt licked Miller's hand, his tail ablare against the wooden floor. Miller was right, he knew. Daydreams wouldn't pull anyone from danger. Diligence would. Yet, oh, how he yearned for a true test, a chance to prove his mettle, to transcend his clumsy puppyhood. He ached to be a hero. He longed to be the dog the world deserved. All he needed was a shot. And perhaps, just perhaps, opportunity was stirring on the horizon. A nascent excitement, a shiver of anticipation, coursed through him. He simply had to be prepared. He simply had to focus. Hope's wobbly start. The world swam into focus, a blur of sagebrush and sky. Hope pushed against the warm, comforting wall that had been her entire universe. Now, it was gone, replaced by a chilling wind that bit at her wet coat. She tried to stand, but her legs, impossibly long and spindly, splayed out beneath her. She collapsed in a heap, the strange, new ground offering no purchase. Again, she tried, muscles trembling with the effort. Still, she failed. A soft nicker vibrated through her, and a warm, velvety muzzle nudged her side. Her mother. The mare smelled of sunshine and sweet grass, a familiar comfort in this disorienting world. She nudged again, firmer this time, a silent command. Hope, driven by instinct and the unwavering support, tried once more. This time, one leg held. Then another. She wobbled, a newborn colt teetering on the edge of existence. Her mother stayed close, a reassuring presence as Hope took her first tentative steps. Each movement was an agonizing effort. A sharp pain shot through her front left leg with every stride. It was a dull, throbbing ache, a constant reminder of her weakness. Days bled into weeks. The herd moved constantly, searching for fresh grazing in the sprawling valley. Hope struggled to keep up. The other foals, already strong and agile, galloped effortlessly alongside their mothers. Hope lagged behind, the pain in her leg a persistent drag. Her mother would slow her pace, nudging Hope forward, but the distance between them and the herd grew steadily. One afternoon, as the sun dipped below the jagged peaks, casting long shadows across the valley. Hope stumbled. She cried out, a high-pitched whinny that echoed in the stillness. She couldn't go on. Exhaustion, pain, and fear washed over her. She sank to the ground, defeated. The herd disappeared over the crest of a distant hill, leaving her alone in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. The training exercise. All right, Bolt, let's see if you can keep your head in the game today. Officer Miller's voice boomed across the training grounds. He gestured toward a series of hurdles, tunnels, and elevated platforms. Obstacle course. Focus, heel, and follow. Bolt, a German shepherd with a heart bigger than his coordination, wagged his tail enthusiastically, tripping slightly over his own paws in the process. He was eager, always eager, but focus was challenging. He managed the first few hurdles with surprising grace, his tongue lolling out in a happy grin. Then, a cloud of butterflies, flitting amongst a patch of wildflowers just beyond the course, caught his eye. The scent of sweet nectar and blooming blossoms overwhelmed him. He forgot all about the hurdles, all about Officer Miller's commands, and veered sharply off course, his nose twitching as he tried to catch a butterfly midair. Bolt! Heel! I said heel! Miller's voice was laced with exasperation. He sighed, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. Bolt, we've been over this. Distractions are everywhere. You need to learn to ignore them. Bolt, momentarily contrite, trotted back to Miller, nudging his hand with his wet nose. He knew he was disappointing his handler, but the world was just so interesting. Miller clipped the leash back on, a grim set to his jaw. All right, we're going to try something different. Longer lead, more distance. This time, we're going to the perimeter. Let's see if you can handle the real deal. The rear perimeter was the edge of the training facility, bordering the wildlands where the Mustangs roamed. As they walked, the air grew crisper, the scent of wildflowers replaced by the earthy aroma of pine and sage. Bolt perked up, his ears twitching. He could smell something else, something wild and untamed, carried on the breeze. It was a scent that sparked an ancient instinct within him, a call to the wild. They were close, closer than they'd ever been before, to the untamed heart of the Mustang territory. Left behind. Hope's leg throbbed with each jarring step. The earth, once a comforting blanket beneath her unsteady gait, now felt like a cruel, unforgiving surface. She stumbled, her injured foreleg buckling. A sharp cry escaped her as she crashed to the ground, the wind knocked from her small body. The herd, a swirling mass of brown and grey, continued its relentless march. Panic flared. She tried to rise, but her leg refused to cooperate, sending a jolt of pain through her that made her whimper. Her mother, a beautiful Palomino mare, slowed, her ears twitching nervously. She circled back, her warm breath ruffling Hope's menere. A soft nuzzle, a silent apology, pressed against Hope's trembling body. Then, with a final, lingering look, she turned and rejoined the others. Hope watched, her heart a leaden weight in her chest, as the herd disappeared over a rise, their forms shrinking against the vast, unforgiving landscape. Dust devils danced where they had been, mocking her solitude. The sound of rushing water, a constant murmur until now, suddenly amplified, becoming a deafening roar that seemed to swallow her whole. She was alone. The sun beat down, baking the earth around her. Flies buzzed annoyingly, landing on her face and the raw scrape on her leg. She tried to stand again, desperate to follow, but the pain was unbearable. She collapsed, the scent of damp earth and wild grasses filling her nostrils. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring the already hazy horizon. She whimpered, a small, lost sound carried away by the wind and the relentless rush of the river. The world, once a place of warmth and security, had become a terrifying, indifferent void. All she could hear was the water, a constant reminder of her isolation, and the rising fear that gnawed at her insides. She closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling her under, and waited. A hero's instinct. The sun beat down on Bolt's black fur. "Stay," barked Officer Reyes, but the word felt like a fly buzzing in his ear. "Squirrel." His head swiveled. Reyes sighed, the sound lost in the drone of summer insects. Bolt tried to focus, his tail giving a traitorous thump against the dusty ground. "Stay, Bolt. Good boy." Then, a different scent, thin and sharp, cut through the heat. Something floral, like the wild lavender that grew down by the river, but underneath, something else. Something vulnerable. He wrinkled his nose, trying to place it. His brain flickered with images, a small, wobbly creature, all legs and soft muzzle, the downy feel of its coat against his nose, the faint, sweet smell of milk. Hope. The little Mustang foal they'd seen last week, grazing with her mother near the water. Hope's scent, now tinged with fear. The tug on his leash tightened. "Bolt. Heel." Rhea's voice was firm, but a low whimper escaped Bolt's throat. He strained against the leather, his pores scrabbling for purchase. That fear scent was growing stronger, carried on the breeze. It clawed at something deep inside him, a primal urge to protect. He wasn't thinking about the training, the commands, the praise. He was thinking about the small, fragile creature in danger. With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged forward. The leash snapped. "Bolt! No!" Reyes yelled, but Bolt was already a black streak across the field, his powerful legs eating up the distance. The riverbank was his target, the scent of fear his guiding star. Each stride was fueled by a desperate urgency, a hero's instinct overriding every carefully cultivated lesson. He had to get to Hope. Danger in the woods. Hope grazed on the tender shoots near the edge of the woods, further than Bolt would have liked. He kept a watchful eye, his ears constantly swiveling, catching every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves. The air hung thick and heavy, ripe with the scent of pine and damp earth. Hope lifted her head, her nostrils flaring. A sound, barely audible, had reached her, a subtle disturbance in the undergrowth. She stopped chewing, her ears pricked forward, her dark eyes wide with apprehension. The rustling grew louder, closer. Panic tightened her chest. Bolt tensed, a low growl rumbling in his throat. He started moving towards Hope, his pace quickening. A shadow detached itself from the deeper darkness of the woods. Two emerald eyes burned in the gloom, fixed on Hope. A low growl vibrated the air, a promise of violence. A mountain lion, sleek and powerful, emerged from the trees, its muscular body rippling beneath its tawny coat. Hope whinnied, a high-pitched sound of terror, and tried to bolt. But the pain in her leg flared, a white-hot agony that buckled her knees. She stumbled, falling to the ground with a jarring thud. The mountain lion stalked forward, its gaze never leaving her, its movements fluid and deadly. Hope scrabbled desperately, trying to rise, but her injured leg betrayed her. She was trapped, vulnerable, the predator closing in. Bolt barked furiously, his hackles raised, ready to defend her. The confrontation was inevitable. The brave rescue. The scent of fear hung thick in the air, sharper than pine needles. Bolt exploded from the tree line, a brown blur against the muted greens and greys of the forest floor. His bark ripped through the silence, a primal roar that echoed off the distant peaks. It wasn't the playful yap he used with squirrels, but a guttural, earth-shaking bellow that spoke of raw, untamed fury. The mountain lion, crouched low over Hope, flinched. Its amber eyes, previously fixed on the downed foal, flickered towards Bolt, assessing the new threat. Hope whimpered, a small, pathetic sound lost in the enormity of the moment. Her leg throbbed, a dull ache that pulsed with every panicked beat of her heart. Bolt didn't hesitate. He surged forward, a whirlwind of muscle and teeth, closing the distance between himself and the predator. Saliva flew from his jaws as he unleashed another torrent of barks, each one laced with an unwavering promise of violence. He weaved back and forth, a frantic dance of intimidation, daring the mountain lion to make a move. The mountain lion, for a heartbeat, stood its ground, muscles coiled, ready to spring. But Bolt's ferocity was unnerving. The dog was smaller, yes, but his unwavering resolve was something the predator hadn't anticipated. With a low growl, a sound that vibrated through the very ground beneath Hope's hooves, the mountain lion turned. It melted back into the undergrowth, a shadow disappearing into shadows, leaving behind only the lingering scent of wildness. Bolt didn't relent. He pursued the retreating cat, barking until it was well beyond the clearing, a brown sentinel guarding his vulnerable friend. Only when he was certain the threat was gone did he turn back, panting, his chest heaving with exertion. He nudged Hope gently with his wet nose, a silent reassurance. Hope, he whined softly, his tone now full of concern, his brave rescue complete. An unlikely friendship. The scent of pine and damp earth filled Hope's nostrils, a stark contrast to the metallic tang of blood she tasted. Her leg throbbed, a dull, persistent ache. She watched Bolt, muscles still tense, panting heavily. He was a strange creature, all sharp angles and controlled power, so unlike the gentle curves of her mother. Yet, he had faced the mountain lion. He had saved her. Hesitantly, she took a step towards him, her injured leg wobbling. He didn't bark or growl, only watched her with intelligent brown eyes. There was a softness there, an understanding that eased her fear. She took another step, then another, until she stood close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his fur. Bolt nudged her gently with his nose, directing her away from the trees. He seemed to be urging her towards the river. The water looked cold and daunting, but she trusted him. She followed, limping, as he picked his way carefully through the undergrowth. When they reached the riverbank, Bolt paused. He stepped into the water, testing its depth, then looked back at her, a low whine rumbling in his chest. He was showing her the way, guiding her to the shallowest part. Hope hesitated. The cold water would sting her wound. But staying here, alone and vulnerable, was not an option. With a deep breath, she plunged in. The shock of the cold was immediate, making her gasp. She stumbled, but Bolt was there, nudging her forward, his body a reassuring presence against the current. He stayed close, guiding her step by step, until finally they reached the other side, shivering but safe. A new beginning. The news rippled through the town like a summer storm. A dog, a foal, a desperate rescue. At the police station, the whispers became a roar. Officer Miller, his face etched with disbelief, stared at the blurry photo someone had snapped of Bolt trotting along the highway. He knew that dog. Outside town, carried on the wind, a different kind of murmur spread. The mustangs, restless and uneasy since Hope's disappearance, pricked their ears. The scent of blood and fear lingered in the air, but something else too, a faint, unfamiliar odor, like metal and asphalt. Miller followed the tracks, impressed. Bolt had stayed on the hard shoulder, guiding the foal. The trail led off the highway and into a wide meadow, bathed in the early morning sun. And there they were. Bolt, alert and watchful, standing guard over a small, trembling form. Hope. The sight stopped Miller in his tracks. The foal's leg was twisted at an unnatural angle, but her eyes, wide and trusting, were fixed on Bolt. Bolt, in turn, met Miller's gaze, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Miller knelt slowly, holding out a hand. "Easy, boy. I'm here to help." A whinny pierced the air. A mare, her coat the color of sun-baked earth, emerged from the trees. Hope's mother. She pawed the ground, uncertain, torn between protecting her foal and fearing the unknown. Bolt shifted, placing himself between the mare and Hope, but then, surprisingly, he nudged the foal forward. Miller, with painstaking care, examined Hope's leg. "We need to get her to a vet." He called it in, and soon flashing lights heralded the arrival of a horse trailer. The mare allowed Miller to approach Hope, her breath hot on his neck, her eyes never leaving Bolt. Days turned into weeks. Hope, her leg in a cast, started to heal. In the meadow, a small miracle unfolded. Bolt, no longer the fierce protector, but a gentle companion, would lie beside her, letting her nuzzle his fur. They would chase butterflies together, Hope's awkward gait slowly gaining strength, Bolt patiently adjusting his pace. An unlikely pair, a dog and a foal, their bond forged in fear and cemented in friendship, a new beginning for both.